Hi everyone. I suppose we aren't going to have another rant again because, you know, what's going on here is just beyond me. Everyone knows my rants and that, but I only rant when I think something needs ranting about. And what we've been going on here regarding the UNHCR for the last 3 years is absolutely fucking beyond me. You know, this is meant to be an aid agency that's meant to be helping refugees, meant to be, you know, here for the protection of refugees, and all I've seen is abuse from this bloody aid agency. Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting. Anyway, this week alone, last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, no, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we had a lady that gave birth in hospital on the 11th of June, 2018, and after the birth, the baby had breathing problems straight away, so they rushed the baby to Athens, which is very understandable, you know, fantastic for doing that, brilliant. But they left the mother here. We were informed about it about a week later because the family was in a terrible state and they were living in a tent in one of the camps, and she didn't know anything about her baby. She knew it had breathing problems, and she said she was just given a form. She didn't understand what they were saying because she only speaks Arabic, and she had told her to sign the form, and I presume that was the consent form for them to take the baby from her, but she didn't know what was going on. And we got involved a week after when we were informed about it. Anyway, I'll put you across to Philippa. Philippa can take you for a bit on that one.
Well, it was, I guess, what the baby was born on. Well, we won't give dates and things for the family's situation. But, yeah, I mean, it was a week after the baby was born in the incident, so Mum is back living in a tent with no running water, no bathroom, not even in the camp, in the Olive Grove. So, yeah, basically no facilities, having spent 2 days in labour and clearly was exhausted and distressed.
Oh, that's normal.
Yeah, but it's astounding. And only by accident, two volunteers that were with us from the UK that week met them in the Olive Grove and heard their story and came back and told me the day after, which was astounding. So then we began frantically calling around trying to get some kind of idea of what the hell was going on and why the family was still here. At that stage, it was 8 days after the baby was born. Why had they not gone to their baby? And we managed to find out with help of friends in Athens that the baby was still on a respirator in Athens, but it was still stable but hadn't deteriorated, hadn't really improved that much. And Mum and Dad are still here in a tent. I just, it begged belief. Honestly, it did. I just could not believe that this could happen. So we found out that they were waiting for permission from the asylum agency and had to have an interview at that stage. Why all this takes so long is astounding.
This is YASO.
Yeah, the European Asylum Agency. So they had to have an interview with them to be cleared for permission to go. Again, that happened 9 days. 9 days, no, 7, I'm sorry, that was on the 18th.
Okay.
So that happened 7 days after the baby was born. YASO gave them an interview and cleared them to leave to go and join their baby. Now, I at that stage thought, oh, they must be new arrivals, and clearly they hadn't been registered. But on checking their documents, I found they've been here for 4 months. So they weren't in any way a threat or someone who hadn't been documented or interviewed. It just didn't make sense to me. But after they had clearance from YASO to go, we then start with the next battle. And the next battle is apparently the European Asylum Agency cannot free you up to pass through the ports. It has to be done via the UNHCR and the authorities, the police, basically. So the UNHCR have to give a list of names to the police to allow these people to be cleared of geographical restrictions, which have been deemed against the Constitution, but ignored. So I mean, they're not even asking to leave the country. This is going from an island to the capital to stay with their sick baby. Now, finally, with a lot of pressure from an amazing amount of groups, because I called around and some incredible people were basically just making a nuisance of themselves with the UNHCR.
Well, they got lawyers involved.
Yeah, lawyers, advocates of refugees, health visitors, etc., made a nuisance of themselves, and finally, yesterday morning, the family were in Athens.
Which yesterday morning was the 28th
Yeah, so...
of October. June, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, basically, yeah, what are we?
28?
16 days,
6, yeah.
16 days after the baby went to Athens, they were allowed to go and join it. So, over 2 weeks, well over 2 weeks,
Yeah.
that they were fretting about their infant son, who is in critical condition in an intensive care unit, and they're not allowed to go and join him because of geographical restrictions and basically the incompetence of the authorities, basically the UNHCR.
Basically the incompetence of the UNHCR. The UNHCR employ people with no hearts. I said this once before. You know, what I've seen is disgusting. I've seen one really good guy from the UNHCR who was here 2015, and he left, I think, the beginning of this year. And this is the only guy I've seen with common sense and who had a heart. And he was told to leave the island this year. I spoke to him before he went. And he really cared. But as for the rest of the people I've seen, they are so... I don't know. If I'm running an aid agency, I would employ people that care and have a big heart. What I see here is having people that basically should be working for Adolf Hitler as an SS group, because this is absolutely fucking disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. The way these people are constantly abusing refugees.
Well, at best it's incompetence, at worst it's abuse.
Yeah, it's abuse. Oh, come on, how can you have so many people incompetent on one company, on one business? Yeah?
I really don't
Especially when your business is meant to be having a big heart and helping people, and you're meant to be there for the protection of people.
What gets to me is the vulnerability of refugees, because we have by the nature of why they flee, a majority are vulnerable, and some are exceptionally vulnerable with health issues, mental health issues, and they're not dealt with. Even though they're identified, flagged, we scream, we visit, we call.
Yeah.
And this is, well, by we, I mean all the independent volunteers and groups that are working here who are trying to advocate for the rights of the refugees are constantly trying to make a nuisance of themselves just to get what's right and what these people are entitled to. I mean, the situation with Simon at the moment is bizarre.
Yeah, we put a video. I put a video on about Simon. Look at YouTube and look at a video called Simon. He was a blind guy. He had an accident in Turkey, and then he came across on a boat. They sunk the boat. They took him back. They tortured him. You know, that's bad enough for having a blind guy tortured and everything else. Anyway, they put him in Moria camp. He's very vulnerable in there. We managed to find him. Well, it wasn't me. It was someone else managed to get him a place, and they put him there. Anyway, he had to go back to the camp, and they said he needed to be back in the camp because he needs to know what's going on and everything else. So they put him back in the camp, and when we said, you know, don't put him back in the camp, we try and do it. Anyway, they said he needs to be there. Anyway, yesterday, poor Simon, he was found wandering, falling over tents and everything in the camp. We managed to get him a blind stick from a lovely couple in England who are both blind, and they sent him a blind stick and they sent him an iPhone, but he's had everything stolen from him. And he's just falling over tent ropes and things like this in the camp. You know, this whole situation, you know, it eats me up inside. When I know, you know, the main camp we're not allowed in. You know, we independent people and people like us are not allowed in. But this main camp is run. You know, there's all these aid agencies in there, and all these people that are meant to be there looking after refugees. And basically they do absolutely nothing. And the UNHCR is meant to be one of the big ones in there, and basically they do absolutely nothing. They absolutely disgust me. And when it's a volunteer again found him falling, stumbling everywhere and falling, this blind guy in a camp Okay, there's a lot of refugees in the camp, but believe me, there's about 300-400 aid agencies, people in there as well every day.
But my point with that is he hasn't. He's clearly exceptionally vulnerable.
Yeah.
He hasn't.
He shouldn't be there.
He hasn't been properly medically assessed.
No.
He is 19 and only been blind for 3 months.
Yeah.
It seems that with an independent doctor, they actually have said that they think the damage is neurological. Now, yesterday he was found confused with no memory. He doesn't know where he is, how he got there, exceptionally frightened and afraid. And he is still not getting medical attention.
He's still getting no help. He's still got no protection from the UNHCR or anyone. Anyway, he was brought to us
How was he
yesterday.
ever released into general population in the camp?
I have no idea.
He has no family.
No, I have no idea. He should be looked after. Anyway, I know I've heard the stories. We have another blind guy in there that's been beaten up and everything else. And the stories that go on inside the camp is insane. You know, as I said more than once, all these aid agencies need kicking off the fucking island, the whole lot of them. You know, and we need to put something else in place. You know, these aid agencies disgust me. I spent all my life as a younger boy through Biafra, Ethiopia and stuff, helping collect at school and stuff. And I really looked up to these aid agencies and stuff. And what I've seen in the last 3 years is just beyond me. You know, and now I know because people come in from other countries and said, Eric, they've been the same here. They've been the same here. It's just a massive, great business, disgusting business, and it is absolutely disgusting. But Simon yesterday, he was brought to. I was in the art centre, and he was brought into the art centre by a volunteer, crying her eyes out, and said she'd found him falling over in the tents and everything else, and outside in the olive grove outside the camp. It's the tent site outside, alongside the camp. So she said, I don't know what to do. And I said, bring him here. He can stay here. We'll look after him until we can do something. And Philippa immediately, she's ringing around. We've been trying to get him into Pipka, but they've got their own problems as well there. So there's still phone calls going on this morning. But he's not going back to Moria. I put my foot down yesterday and said, this guy is not going anywhere. We will look after him. I've got refugees with him 24 hours a day now. Looking after him. We gave him some food and everything yesterday, but he didn't even know who I was yesterday.
And you've met and
we've
spent time
met.
together.
I spent a lot of time with Simon. I mean, I spent a lot of time with Simon. You know, I've talked to him. I know his story. I know he's tortured and everything else.
From
I've helped him as much as I can.
From the volunteer who's been with him a lot the last week, she said he's waiting.
He didn't recognise her either.
No, but he's waiting for a brain scan because obviously the damage is quite deep, and if he's losing his memory now and everything else, I mean, clearly this is an urgent case.
This is a 19-year-old boy.
Bless him.
A 19-year-old boy. You know, I was in tears yesterday when she came in crying her eyes out, and she had him on her arm. It brought tears to my eyes. And the refugees we were doing the art centre. I mean, one after the other, you could see tears in their eyes, and they're all trying to hug him and everything. You know, and when I said, you know, he's staying, we will look after him now, and all the refugees said, thank you, Mr. Eric, thank you. But and I said, no, this should never happen. It should never be. It's these disgusting people running these fucking aid agencies that really piss me off.
I also want to point out the hospital situation here is we have a tiny, very underfunded hospital on the island to deal with the 80,000 inhabitants. They've added 10,000 very needy refugees to this list of people without any extra help, any extra funding, and they are swamped, and they have been swamped now for 4 years. It's not getting any better.
No.
They're not getting any help. The funding is still crap, and this is insane. So the refugees are waiting months and months and months.
Some have been here 2 years
plus.
Yeah.
But to get any medical attention from the state. Now, I don't blame the hospital for that. It should be dealt with. You can't add a 10,000 population to such a tiny place and not have any kind of plans in place. Most of the medical care is provided by NGOs that are here, providing independent medical care outside of the camp, with MSF, Doc Mobile.
Private doctors coming in.
Private doctors. There's a dentist group. I think the dentist now in the camp is HPP. Yeah. So all these groups are coming in trying to do their little bit, but there's no structure. There is no constant medical support for these vulnerable people. And when the UNHCR actually don't give a shit and nobody else does, I'm just furious.
I'm just, I don't know what to say. You know, I watched the UNHCR attack my family on 2 occasions. I've seen the way they operate. You know, up here, you know, they literally tried to push us off and almost have pushed us off the north coast. And we were here 18 years. We've been living up here. You know, they're trying to discredit us constantly, and it's just, I don't know. It's just beyond me when you have these people that are meant to help, and all they're doing is abusing. And now you see some of the policies the UNHCR are setting up in Turkey and stuff. It's just fucking, you know, why don't you just put fucking, instead of having UNHCR, why don't you just have a nice logo on your T-shirts, SS? You know, it would go down a lot better, and it'd be more true to the fact, you know, because this is disgusting. You know, you're meant to be people with big hearts, and what I've seen, and even the way one of the head on the island attacked you that time over the baby that was born, you know, she had nothing in her heart at all, this woman. She just, you know, she couldn't
Only
believe.
proving that she was right.
Yeah, just to try to prove that she was right. You know, she didn't care that the mother lost water and everything else, and the mother needed an ambulance because of that, even more so. You know, she didn't care about that. It's like, and I see it time and time a day in, day out.
Yeah, but the crazy thing is they are the one group who's only, I don't know what they're supposed to be doing here, because if you look at their videos on Facebook and everything else, they're advertising. They're actually only showing other people's work and adding a UNHCR brand to it.
Yeah,
so
most of them do that. These big
yeah, but none of that is their work. So their only, from what I can see, their only proviso or only directive is the protection of the rights of refugees. Now, if they can't do that, even they need to go. What's the point in paying them?
That in 2015. We said it in 2016. We said it in 2017. You know, what are the point of these people being here?
But it's damaging because people think, oh, the UN is there, the UNHCR is there, the UNICEF is there. They must be, everything must be fine. Well, actually, it's not fucking fine.
It never has been fine. You know, I mean, I watched the UNHCR and everything else, and for 3 years I've had them here in my house. I've been having major arguments with them because it does disgust me that you have this massive organisation with these people with cold hearts, and they really have, you know, and the lies, you know, and the publicity, because most of the donations that go to them go on publicity so they can make more donations, and this is with most of these people, they spend 40% or something like that on publicity. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But when you have an organisation spending 40% or 60% or whatever it is...
And the rest goes on salaries.
On salaries and infrastructure. I mean, when you have this amount of money just for publicity, I mean, they don't take hundreds of euros like, you know, we take. They take millions. And when you talk 40%, they're spending on film stars and stuff like this to carry on their business. And their business, and it is a business.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
it
what
is
people
a business.
think. It should be called, instead of aid agency, it should be called
a business. Yeah.
Aid business.
Yeah. You know, and the UNHCR are bad, believe me. But they don't take the biscuit, you know. You know, the big chocolate cake goes to the Red Cross because they're just incredible. The amount of bullshit that come out of them on the International Red Cross. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong here. You have people working for the Red Cross all around the world, people with big hearts, looking after...
Yeah, but that's the volunteers on the ground.
On the ground.
Yeah.
You know, they really believe, and they do a fantastic job. But when it comes to the International Red Cross, and the money they take and the money that disappears is incredible. Absolute. In Haiti and that, you know, that this is absolutely... It's just insane. You know, I mean, the UNHCR... You know, don't do my head in because they're abusing refugees more than they're helping refugees. But the Red Cross basically just come in, look at us, we're the Red Cross, give us donations, and it just disappears. They don't do anything at all. You know, when they said, I asked the head of the Red Cross, what do you actually do on this island? And she didn't know, and the guy that actually works on the island, the head of the European, he had here at the time, when they come to ask me to apologise.
Oh, last year, or the year before.
And I said, what? And she didn't. And he said, we give out blankets. And I said, yeah, and you give out MSF blankets as well. You know, they're not even their own bloody blankets.
But you know what happens at the end of the day with all this profiteering and money making and stuff? It's the refugees that suffer. It's the refugees' rights that are ignored, and there is a massive chasm of gap in services provided to refugees. Actually, they don't get services. And now they announced, I mean, if the UNHCR are responsible for who leaves the island after the European Asylum Agency has already decided who can leave the island, which strikes me as a double flipping job.
Yeah, but when you have a fascist in charge of this, it must be, because the abuse is going on. This person who says that they can go or can't go, and they can't even let a woman that's had a newborn baby go, and they keep holding it up, with all the people coming in saying, what's going on here? Why can't you help these people?
But I was informed this week that they're about to halve their numbers of staff again because they have no funding, poor dabs. So if that's the case, will anyone ever receive any kind of... You know, they decide who goes. They decide who gets to be rehoused. The numbers of people arriving are still going on, and no one is leaving because they can't administer the paperwork to get people off the island. So it's just going to grow. And as it grows, you know, the population in Mytilene and Moria, who up until now have been actually really good, considering, are starting to get thoroughly pissed off.
Yeah.
Because you cannot... I mean, the population of Mytilene is 30,000 people.
You can't blame them.
You are adding 10,000 people to that, and 10,000 very needy people.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. And what will happen is the people who are on the side of the refugees are going to get really tired of this. You cannot overwhelm a population by that many people. It's ridiculous. While Europe sits back and says, we don't want refugees. And now the situation in the Mediterranean, where when you rescue people, it's against the law to bring them to land. It's
against the law to give people water in France.
Europe is just a
disgusting place it's becoming.
I don't know.
One thing about the UNHCR, you know, they're halving because they don't have the money. You know, you look at this. This is my car. Yeah, it's a 3-cylinder Daewoo. Yeah, I don't know, she's 20 years old, something like that. Yeah, that's what we use. You have these UNHCR people coming into Mytilene. They live in 4-star hotel, I think the Blue Sea Hotel is. They live in places like this.
I don't think they're in the Blue Sea.
Oh, they're not there anymore. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, but they give their staff beautiful hire 4x4 cars with great big tyres and everything else, and they sit there with their sunglasses and what superior people they are to everyone else. But they drive from Mytilene to, and I said this in the video before, they drive to Mytilene to Moria, which is about 6-7 kilometres. And that 4x4 mostly costs €80 plus a day to hire from a hire company. And if they jumped on the bus, it would be €1 there, €1 back. This is what I mean about abuse of money and waste of money. But it's from the hotels to everything, you know. It shouldn't be. You know, we're all meant to be here helping refugees. All that money that is wasted should be going towards refugees. It's a constant waste of money. You know, and we come across this constantly, all the time. Anyway, we'll wind this one up. I am really happy that Mum should be with the baby today. She should be with baby, or last night? No, today.
Hopefully yesterday morning. They got the ferry. They landed yesterday morning. So I'm waiting for a call from them, but I'm guessing they're a little busy. So that's all fine.
Yeah, that's great. As for Simon, we're going to keep hold of Simon until we can find him a nice place to stay.
Pitcairn have been great, actually.
Yeah,
since
Pitcairn's been brilliant. You know,
so they're going to try and fit them in.
We'll try and get Simon there. He can't be left alone in a bloody camp like that with these bloody disgusting ages, and you see he's sitting around drinking coffee all day and doing nothing.
The thing is, if he's lost his memory and stuff, he needs to be hospitalised.
But he's only just lost his sight. That's why we got him the stick. And you know, I'm trying to help him. You know, and people were trying to have. I watched some videos for a couple of weeks ago where he was trying to use the stick and stuff. So it's the whole thing's very new to him. I mean, now it's got even worse because now he's losing his memory and everything else. Poor bugger.
He needs treatment, proper treatment.
He needs looking after. You know, and he needs somewhere where he can get 24-hour care a day. You know, 24-hour a day. He needs to be looking after.
He doesn't know where he is.
He doesn't know where he is. I mean, what I've done, I've asked people to stay with him, and I said, you know, make sure in the night there's one of you are awake and everything else, so if he needs to go to the toilet and stuff, we can get him to the toilet and things like this. But, poor bugger. I mean, I just don't believe what this young boy's been through, being tortured in Turkey and everything else, you know, just because he's trying to get out, because where he come from, you know, there's murder and killings and bombings and everything else, and he's trying to make a better life for himself, and he loses his sight, and he's just a child, yeah. Poor bugger. Anyway, we will do our best for him. We will try. I don't know what we're going to do about these aid agencies. Basically, the whole lot of them need shutting down.
Well, as you said, 4 years and nothing's changed.
Yeah. So, okay, all the best, everyone. Bye.